Well, welcome to Hotel Chaco in Albuquerque, downtown Albuquerque by Old Town. This is Joe Van Cleve. And this week is Aftacon, Americans for the Arts Convention in Albuquerque. This is a national arts organization based out of Washington, D.C., and they're having their annual convention here in Albuquerque. And they invited us to come here and set up a makerspace with typewriters for the artists attending the convention can, between sessions, come in and try their hand at creating words on paper directly with ink and fingers with typewriters. And we're really excited about that. Okay, now for some morning coffee and set up the typewriters. Thank you so much.
There you go.
You bet.
Of course. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Oh, I see.
I have a latte, Lori. So we have 4 tables set up. We have 9 typewriters. We have the Hermes table. This is the middle body style of the Hermes 3000. This is the ladder body style, the French-made Hermes 3000. I had bought this from Brown & Smith in Albuquerque, maybe 2 decades ago, and it works pretty good. Then we have a table of a couple German machines. This is an Adler J3. This is one of my favorite semi-portable typewriters. These are really great machines. Love it. And this gentleman is typing on my Olympia SM4 in script typeface, and he's having a great time doing so. And then on this table here, we have the venerable Smith Corona Silent Super. This one was made in the 1950s, but it has the X suffix serial number, so it has a number 1 key special order keyboard. This is a Royal Mercury with a recently replaced rubber platen. Here is the Groma Calibri, the legendary typewriter featured in the film The Lives of Others. And then our electric table. This is the Royal Saturn. It's basically an electric version of the Royal Mercury, one of the quietest electric typewriters. And this Olympia Reporter is made in Japan by Nakajima, and it's a very swift and fairly quiet electric typewriter as well. So we got typing paper, books, typewriters, all kinds of things set up for the convention. The staff of the Aftacon organization were very, very helpful, and the hotel staff were very helpful too, except our room where we had the Makerspace had this very energetic cooling system that was very cold, too cold for us natives of Albuquerque, and blowing much too fast, blowing the papers off the table and flapping around the papers threaded in the typewriter. So we eventually figured out how to operate the thermostat and took control of that ourselves. So in our Makerspace room, we shared that with other local arts organizations, including the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum in Santa Fe. Their mobile arts truck came down and they were doing button making, which we collaborated with them in terms of typewriter art. So I made a number of buttons and encouraged our participants to do so also, using typewritten effects on paper, and then we would go over to the O'Keeffe table and they would make buttons out of that. And I had a couple made that I was quite proud of. We also had the National Hispanic Cultural Center represented. They had several tables with painting activities. And then there were 2 other groups who were involved with doing linoleum block and wood block printing, and also printing onto fabric. So it was a great collaborative effort in the Makerspace during this convention. Throughout their long history, typewriters were not just a tool of capitalism, but of artists, writers, and free thinkers. They weren't used solely for transcribing shorthand into printed text for business, but were the main tool of professional writers, letter writers, students, and hobbyists alike. In today's digital world, the very act of creating a written work online is monitored, surveilled, and exploited for commercial and political gain. In contrast, Typewriters are intrinsically private and dedicated to doing but one thing, writing via ink direct to paper. Typewriters represent a direct link from heart, eye, and mind via fingers, muscles, and tendons to keys, ink, and paper. They are able to express your inner thoughts direct to paper without mediation, moderation, or surveillance. So for the second day of the Makerspace, I brought some aluminum foil, and I encourage people to thread the aluminum foil into the typewriters with a backing sheet of paper and to do embossed typing, which is something that we did way back in the summer of 2008. A lot of us early typewriter bloggers were doing, and I had just kind of remembered this again. And then I encouraged some of these people to take their works of embossed typing over to the Georgia O'Keeffe table and get buttons made out of them, which was really cool. And now I'm thinking, why haven't I been doing this all along at public type-ins? So I'm going to be definitely bringing aluminum foil along in future type-ins for people to play with this idea of embossed typing. Well, I also enjoyed 2 days of having a nice hotel lunch, and it was actually surprisingly good. It wasn't the usual grim grilled chicken breast. It was pretty good food, pretty decent. So enjoyed a good meal each of those days, and the hotel did a really good job of that as well. Now, I didn't take too much still photography, but I did find this composition of the linen truck loading up a cart of linen from the hotel, and then this shot of a mourning dove sitting on one of the boulders outside of Hotel Chaco, which was kind of cool. Well, it's the morning of the second day of Aftacon, so the first day was very cool. We had a lot of good attendance at our Makerspace at Hotel Chaco and next to Hotel Albuquerque, which is where the actual conference was being held at. A lot of good attention, a lot of very cool people from across the country had a chance to try out the typewriters. We were busy most of the day just helping people getting started with typing. And so after we packed up and left about 4:30 yesterday afternoon, later in the evening at the Albuquerque Museum, which is nearby the Aftacon convention, the Mayor of Albuquerque and the governor of New Mexico made presentations. So they were definitely acknowledging the importance of the arts, and it was definitely taken notice of by the leaders of the Aftacon convention that here in New Mexico, we have high-ranking political leaders who recognize the importance of the arts, which I think is really cool. My partner Lori also brought some handmade paper that she had crafted, and it worked surprisingly well to type on in a typewriter. I was very impressed, and she's going to do more of this also. So Lori Willinghurst is our current communications director for the ABQwerty Type Writer Society, and I had invited her to attend this convention and be my helper in setting up and helping with the public and the typewriters. And so she also brought some interesting posters, this Remington electric typewriter advertisement poster, and then this piece about Mark Twain and his use of Remington typewriters, one of the first novels written with a typewriter. And then she did this little poster about typewriter art, and she also made some typing prompts for us to use. And Lori was a huge help. A big shout out to her. Thank you, Lori. So I was very excited that we had this opportunity presented to us to attend Aftacon as an exhibitor. Aftacon probably won't be back in Albuquerque for another decade or more because they try to go to different cities every year for their annual convention. And I believe that we were invited, we had this opportunity mainly because last year in 2025, we did several type-ins at the Albuquerque Museum, which is run by the city of Albuquerque itself. And so I think this was our foot in the door, if you will. And I felt very much unprepared and out of place initially, weeks before this, when I was planning for it. knowing I'm not a professional artist, but also knowing, though, that there are some really important creative opportunities presented when you put people in front of typewriters, especially with the written arts, the arts of words and letters. That was what was on my mind when I was preparing the written material that we had at our tables, especially thinking about Richard Polt's The Typewriter Manifesto. And he was kind of the forerunner of thinking about typewriters in the digital era and the challenges that we are presented as creatives about privacy, being disconnected from the internet, being able to create without oppression, without oversight. And these are some of the things that I presented to the attendees who came to our table and sat down at our typewriters and had fun enjoying creating direct to paper without intervention, surveillance, or oversight, being able to freely think and express themselves. And so I think that's very important in this day and age, and the challenge of remaining a human creator in this digital era. Well, I want to thank my friend Lori for helping prepare and run this thing that we did at the convention, and also to the convention runners who invited us. And I wish you the very best in your creative pursuits. And as always, stay creative and have yourselves a great day. And bye-bye for now.